We'll continue with our levels, and if you see the level setting, which is primarily required when you work with Revit structure, when you put your slabs and roof information from the ground, you need to elevate at particular level, so you need to attach the informations to it. So it is very, very important and vital, so that you can see only from the elevations. So when you see the elevation, and these are the level informations which we saw in our earlier session, and this distance also you can double click and edit it. Whatever the distance, when you put your cursor here, you can see the information from where it is derived, and that you can edit or change it with a very effective and simple sense. And now the very fundamental and important concept is the visibility control of the levels. Suppose we need to control the display of a particular level. If you right click it, here you can see the option hide in view and element. This particular level will be in the hidden state. Also, we'll look into the grids, which is very, very important when you start from any layout and put your structure element like the columns, beams, and other fundamental foundation structures, and over that you start building. So you have to create the grids, which is very, very important. So where can you find the grids and what all options you can configure, that we'll look into. If you go to the plan views, so these are the grid lines. So those can be arranged in two different ways, one with the rectangular pattern, another with the radial patterns. If you select the grids, and you will see this particular modify place grid dialog box, where you will be with the draw panel by default, which is highlighted, and you are with the lines, the radial, or with the centers. Let us say I'll start with the lines. Let us say this is my horizontal line for my starting grid. I'll escape it. Again I will go to the grid construction, and this is my also reference line. Again, when you put the second grid informations, here you can see the distance. So this distance you can double click and change it with the required values. Maybe this is 55, so this will be with 55 dimension, and whenever you put your grids with proper locations, you can have the dimensions always. So when you release it, you will be with the dimensions, and you can have the dimensions here. By default, the fit options will be highlighted. So in this way, if you select your grids, grid members, and you will be getting the edit options, and when you go to the edit, you can play with the colors, you can play with the display settings, the symbols, the grid head with the circle, or grid head with no bubbles, and also you can see the end segment pattern grid line with 1/4 inch specification. So these patterns will be shown. Center segment continuous. This you can change to custom or none. And likewise, you can set these properties just by selecting and go to edit type. Now we'll look the grid with the other formats, which are center or start or end. If you go to the center and you go for the grids, then you can have the radial grids in the requisite directions, and here you can set your radius, and when you click it here, you will be able to assign the required properties with respect to a center. Or if you try to create a radial pattern through a simple line, if you have a line, and next I'll just escape it to finish it, and I'll start point is this, you can have this like also radial patterns. Again I will be defining my start point with the radial dimensions. So in this way you can also create the radial through the linear item as well as through your center one. So different ways are there which you can look. These options we saw, and modifying grids also I have shown you how you can do it, and controlling the visibility of grid, that also you can control, just the one we saw. If you right click it, you can see the hide in the views element. This also can be accordingly done just like your levels. So this is common for fundamentally all the items which you can apply anytime. And working with the reference plane, is fundamentally challenging and very, very important when you work with Revit structure. For example, if I am going for the front elevation, this is the front elevation, and if I am working with the elevation and I need to work with a particular side or planes, how do you decide it? If you go to the work plane here, this area, and you go to set, and you will get one option like pick a plane. If you select the particular area or side, directly you can go to the open view, and that will be aligned, and you can directly work with respect to this particular plane. These are the grids which I temporarily created, but I can directly switch to this particular view. Or maybe you can go to set and pick a plane, and I want to work with respect to this side. That means this is the elevation. When you can switch from side to side, east to west, north, south, or any particular angle or planes instantaneously. If you want to work with this foundation, you go to set, you go to pick a plane. I am selecting this, go to open views, you will go to the foundation, and you can start working and put your building elements here. This is very nice and interesting when you work with Revit structure with the work planes. And working with projector views, which is fundamentally the controlling part that you have to understand very clearly. So if you see this particular area, the project browser, and here you can see the first floor, second floor, or the required floor, or maybe the 3D analytical views, where you can see the 3D views, or maybe in the 3D form, or maybe with respect to a particular side, maybe east, maybe north, or maybe west, you can directly get the views. So quickly you can control this from this particular side, and you can go to the 3D views anytime. That means when you go to the work plane and pick a plane, if you go to this side, you are working here. You can see wherever you select, that will be your working plane, and you can start building your element there. If you go to set, pick planes, and I am picking this as my planes. So this will be your working plane. Presently whatever you build, that will be attached to this one, and you can show this also. Show the working plane with respect to any object. That directly can be done after setting the working planes. This will be highlighted. The scope box is something which you can use to control the visibility of datum elements, grids, reference lines, labels. And you can create the scope box, which primarily I will focus in my coming session, and I will show you how you can use the scope box for controlling different items. Thank you.